In a video from last year, I talked about the trouble recorder and some of the steps I had to take to get it working again after laying dormant for the past few years. Well, now the same trouble recorder is jamming up and the motor overload clutch is kicking in. Besides making a terrible noise, this tells me that there's something mechanically wrong with the machine that needs to be corrected. Here's the motor out of the old non-working recorder. This motor still works. This is the overload clutch here on the pulley. So this is the pulley. This is where the V-belt goes in this slot. And this kind of spring here, this coiled spring, is the overload clutch. Now, inside of this spring, which I'm not going to show you because I don't want to take this off, but inside of this spring, this is retaining a bunch of ball bearings that go around this entire circumference underneath this spring. And those ball bearings sit in little cups, again, around the circumference. Now, these ball bearings are kept seated in their cups by the tension of this spring. But when there's an overload, the machine is jammed and this motor can no longer spin. And the force of the motor ends up overcoming the holding force that's being, because the machine's blocked, and these ball bearings move outward radially, pushing this spring out. And when they push this spring out, they pop out of their little seats, their little cups that they're sitting in, and they grind against the cups, which is fine. It doesn't damage the ball bearings, but it does have the effect of allowing the motor to continue rotating while not actually transmitting any force to the pulley on the V-belt. So the motor keeps spinning, but the pulley does not keep spinning. And then eventually there's a timer inside the machine that says if it hasn't ejected a card within 3 to 5 seconds, then something's obviously wrong. So the timer kicks in and then kills the power to the motor, and then you can't repower the motor until you operate a key that says, okay, I want to use this thing again, it's safe to use. When we looked over the machine, we found that there were bent pins in the perforator assembly. Now, there were 2 bent pins that we already knew about, and their magnets had been disconnected, so they should not matter. But what was surprising is that we found 2 more bent pins that appeared to be new. This could definitely be causing our problem. But why were the pins bending in the first place? That's a question we'll have to wait until later to answer. For now, we just have to get the perforator assembly out of the recorder so that we can replace the bent pins. For the bent pins, I took these little arms off. Here's one of them. Here's one of the magnets here. And it works now, but now we can't use this punch. So now I think we have, altogether, we have 4 pins that are bent. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, there's 2 and 3 here, and then 4. And that's no good because now we're going to start, definitely missing perforations in the cards. Now these bent pins will only impact the bottom half of the card. Actually, sorry. The card comes out like this. So these bent pins will only impact this half and this half of the card because the top of the card is punched by another set of these and another set of pins that are on the opposite side of the machine. So this will only impact the bottom, but still, the fact that they're bending, the fact that this is happening isn't great. So what I'm gonna do is we have this perforator here that has been taken apart for a while. It got taken apart, wasn't put back together, so just as well, because now I'm gonna use it for parts. So these pins are good. I need to be able to remove this whole pin assembly, take it out, and then remove, takes the pins out of this, put them in that. Now, the difficulty is that I've never done this before. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start doing it. I'm going to start this job on this trouble recorder that's already mostly taken apart, that's already broken, so that if I make a mistake or I need to figure something out, then at least I will be doing that part of the process on this machine and not that machine. Because by the time I start working on that one, I want to know that I know what I'm doing. So the first part of this task to remove the pins is to take out the This is called the out bin. I've already removed the 2 bolts, so we'll just remove the out bin and put it aside. And then I think the next thing we probably have to do is remove the chaff bin. That's this portion. This is where all of the holes go when they're perforated. So we'll remove the chaff bin. Hopefully this should just pop right out. I got my 1/8 Allen here. Yep. All right, so I didn't get it on film, but there's the chaff bin and there's all the little holes in there. So the in bin, this is the in bin. This is in the back of the machine, and this is where you insert the cards to obviously to load the machine. So it's actually a pretty cool assembly here. The cards sit on this movable table, and you can push the table down, and then you can load up a full stack of cards, and this is retaining the cards horizontally, this little guy here. And then when you close the door and push the door down, it launches the table back up, which I'm not going to just let it slam against the top stops. I don't want to do that, but I'll show you. I'll put some downforce on this table, and then you can see that this guy comes up to the top. So that's what elevates the cards and provides the support for the cards as they're being loaded into the machine. And this also has an alarm on it via this wire here that will sound when the card elevator or the in bin is empty or near empty. So that will alert you that you need to replace the cards. So the next thing we have to do to get this out is we have to loosen these 2 Allens, slide this over to the left. So that's what I'll be doing next, is removing these and figuring out how to free this whole card feed coupling. Now, the thing I'm worried about is the chain. I'm not sure if I have to remove those chains or not yet, but I'm hoping that I can sort of I'm hoping that it'll become apparent as I start taking it apart. I do read the instructions, but the instructions are sometimes irritatingly brief, in that they don't tell you everything. They just say, remove the screws, slide it to the left, and then remove it. And you're like, okay, but what about everything else? So I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna start pulling these Allens out over here, and then hopefully the rest of it will become apparent to me. Most of this stuff, not all of it, but most of it feels pretty self-evident, where as soon as you start picking at it, you go, oh yeah, that's how a machine would work. What size do I need? Let's see what we got here. This? Yeah. Okay. It does say to remove that. That's the fitting that locks these 2 parts of the shaft together. So we'll put that there for now. And then, now the shaft is spinning freely. Remove all except 2 mounting screws and washers at opposite ends of the punch and card assembly using Allen wrench. Okay, that's this. So there's 2 here, 2 here, 2 here, there, 2 there. And then there's an equal number of them in the same places on the back, which I'm going to remove now. The manual makes a big deal out of remembering the size and exact location of the shims that sit on the machine surface between the punch assembly and the main casting. So here, we're being very careful to remove the punch assembly slowly and to record the location of the shims. All right, let's push it up if we can. We'll take the tension off the screw. Last screw's coming out. Last screw is out. Okay. Let's see if we can.
Looks like it will come out the back very easily now. And put it where?
That's a good question.
Got it?
I got it.
It's heavy.
This is the back facing me. Here's the punches, right? This is the card transport chain here. This goes all the way around on this guy. You see, this is how the cards are transported through, only they're transported in this direction from back to front. So we want the cards to go back that way. And then here's our punches. And then these things are the retractors. So once the punch is set and it goes down, there's a cam that comes around and forces this retractor back this way, right? Which forces the punch up. So punch down, right? Actually, we'll do it with this punch. See, that one goes down, and if I push this with my index finger back, it pulls the punch back up. And that's part of the card feed, right? Because we don't want the card to move forward if a punch is still down. So that's what these guys do, is they pull the punches back up. Okay. That could be there. Okay, so here is the punch assembly in all of its glory. The card actually transports through the machine through this slot here. And we are looking at the front side of the machine. So this is what it would be if we were standing in the aisle facing the machine pulling a card. Here's the card transport. Again, going the wrong way. That's the right way for the card transport. And I had to disconnect the drive part of this to get this out. Then here's the punches. Notice anything interesting about them? Yeah, me too. They're indexed. 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I don't know why that is, because I have not found anything yet in the manual about that. But I think what I'm going to do is oh, what's that? Oh no, it's fine. Okay, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay. I think what will happen is if I need to replace a punch, I will pull one with the same index, with the same number of rings as the punch I need does. So, and who knows, maybe one's longer than the other or something. Maybe their cutting edges are facing different directions, so they all start piercing the card at different points in their travel. Might be possible. Not sure how to remove them yet. I'm betting it has to do with these circlips here. So zoom in. Yeah, those guys are holding the punch in. So I think that's the next step, is to try to remove one and see what I find. Circlip.
So a little circlip came out.
Which I will now proceed to lose immediately. Here,
wait.
There's the other circlip. And here comes the punch coming out.
And that spring stays behind?
Well, I'll take it out separately.
Got it.
There's the punch. And the spring, I'm gonna have to reach up and over awkwardly.
All right, I'm gonna come around to the other side now. All right.
Just reach in there and pull it out. So we think we figured out what the score marks are for on the punch head. So you have 1, 2, and then there's another one with 3. if you hold these punches up next to each other, one of them is ever so slightly longer than the other one.
So the cards are exactly, oh, can you see that? 0.15 millimeters thick.
It's showing 0.16 now, but your point is well taken.
Oh, okay, sorry, I wasn't holding it firmly enough. There you go. The card is exactly 0.15 millimeters thick, which means that the punch length is exactly one card thickness difference. So just as one punch has gone all the way through, the adjacent punch is starting to make its hole.
Oh, that's very clever. Yeah, so here's punch 1, and we measured it at 84.0 millimeters. Punch 2, 84.16. I'm not really sure about the 100ths of a millimeter with these punches, because it's really hard to measure something that big, that accurately, but with these, but yeah, but just about both measurements were about these numbers, pretty close, so that definitely means what Peter said. That's very cool. That's all for today. In the next video, we'll disassemble the other machine and decide what we're going to do with the bent punches. There's a few surprises here, so stay tuned.